4 o'clock in the East as the anxiety and grief of a nation gives way to outrage that a country reeling from 3,103 COVID deaths yesterday has been abandoned by its president, Donald Trump, and by the party that has now fully surrendered to his grip. 3,103. It's a death toll eclipsed by few events in United States history, one that has now soared past the death toll from September 11th. 3,103 people in this country died yesterday. The gut punch comes when you realize that many Americans have almost gotten used to reading numbers like that. Actually, 4 days in the past week have ranked among the deadliest days in this country's history ever. The Pearl Harbor attacks that killed 2,400 people will forever be remembered and described as a day that will live in infamy, as proclaimed by FDR. And in the aftermath of September 11th, President George W. Bush asked for prayers for all those who grieve, for the children whose worlds were shattered that day. Yet today, 3,000 families wake up wondering what life looks like now, today, without their loved one beside them. And we wait for the president or really anyone to acknowledge the somber occasion in any way. No reference to the death toll or to the virus, for that matter, on Donald Trump's Twitter feed. Instead, tweet after tweet after tweet about the election he lost in the most secure election in our country's history to Joe Biden. Behind the scenes, at least according to his public schedule, his only event today was a meeting with Republican state AGs. Here's what they're up to. They're suing on his behalf to overturn the election result. Yeah. And rather than getting on the phone with lawmakers and urging them to pass that desperately needed economic relief for the tens of millions of Americans suffering the effects of reduced wages, job loss, and hunger, something his successor, President-elect Biden, has been pressing for publicly. Trump is on the phone, but he's calling Republicans on Capitol Hill to pressure them into joining his fruitless and now dangerous election fight, leaving cities, states, and ordinary Americans to basically figure this out for ourselves. Like the feed store in South Dakota, whose sign now reads, "God be with us," as its remote counties' cases and deaths skyrocket. Or the vast stretch of West Texas with just one hospital and a 12,000 square mile radius and no heart or lung specialist to treat the serious cases of COVID there. Or Los Angeles, where yesterday a county health director fought back tears when her briefing on the death toll in her community became too much for her to bear.
While this trend line provides a frightening visual of our reality, the more terrible truth is that over 8,000 people, over 8,000 people who were beloved members of their families are not coming back, and their deaths are an incalculable loss to their friends and their family, as well as our community.
A human being having a human reaction to the incalculable loss in her community and countless others all across the country, as we are all awash in that grief. Today, though, there's reason for some hope. A panel advising the FDA is, as we speak, nearing the end of an all-day meeting to decide whether to recommend for approval Pfizer's coronavirus vaccine. Their recommendation would make swift FDA approval likely and could mean a light at the end of the tunnel of what we're living through right now for millions of Americans in the coming months. A glimmer of hope in a darker winter than any of us could have imagined. That's where we start today with some of our favorite reporters and friends. Yamiche Alcindor, White House correspondent for PBS NewsHour's back. Also joining us, Dr. Kavita Patel. She is a practicing physician and served as White House Health Policy Director under President Obama. And Robert Gibbs is back, former White House press secretary for President Obama. Lucky for us and you, they're all MSNBC contributors. Dr. Patel, I want to start with, I'm going to get to the vaccine news, but I want to start with the death toll. I'm starting to think maybe it's me, but how does a country process a loss of this scale and size when the experts and the scientists are on TV every day telling us the worst is yet to come?
Yeah, it's hard to process, and I think, Nicole, what even I can't process process the numbers because they're just unfathomable. By the way, Dr. Ferrer, who you showed that clip of with her emotional reaction, I mean, that is unanimous. All of us are feeling her feelings, and it becomes a point where 3,000, you can't believe it. I can't believe it. And I get like a pit in my stomach where I think, and I know, as you point out, this is not the worst. And then at the same time, I've been a dork in watching that advisory committee meeting. I can't help but get excited. And then, Nicole, part of me thinks, because one of my patients was in that 3,000 that died, a 98-year-old woman in a nursing home, it had to be by herself. She is, I can't help but think that if we had that vaccine just a couple weeks early, would that have saved her life? And I know that that's a hard mental exercise, but as these days go on and these numbers increase, they almost become you become numb to them, except we're not numb to them, and you see the emotions on the faces of you and everyone around the country.
Tell us what that vaccine hearing has concluded, as far as you know, and then what their decision means in terms of maybe getting these vaccines into our arms soon.
Yeah, and they're voting, they're having their discussion and voting kind of as we speak. So we expect to kind of get a readout of that in about an hour or two. What has happened so far has been an incredible presentation on the data. The CDC also presented some really compelling graphs and statistics, Nicole, reinforcing that older people with chronic conditions like diabetes, heart disease, obesity are at higher risk to die, as well as some disturbing statistics that pregnant women might be at risk for preterm delivery if they get COVID. So all the reasons we need a vaccine. And then really, I take away from it and predict that they will vote to support and recommend to the commissioner of the FDA to authorize an emergency use authorization. From that point on, Commissioner Hahn, with obviously his colleagues and advisors, will make that decision to issue that emergency authorization. And I really do expect that to be in the next day. And then as soon as that authorization is issued, Pfizer has prepared with their manufacturing capacity, has prepared to release vaccine to a third party that will handle distribution to states, territories, and tribal nations around the country. And we will start to see healthcare workers at highest risk getting the vaccine, hopefully as soon as Sunday or Monday. But we're all waiting.
Wow.
Freezers are ready. We're all waiting. And so this is the moment that we've been waiting for. But I want to offer some really kind of stark concerns that I have. We don't have enough Pfizer vaccine or even Moderna vaccine pre-purchased to vaccinate the whole country. So we are not going to see the relief we need for several months at earliest. And that means everybody has to do their part to flatten the curve today and not wait for the vaccine or think that it's somehow a magic, a magic solution.
Robert,